Oh, this is a short one also.
So we said, Omer of Yitzchak Bridra of Mashtarshe Hocha Be'ilan Anoita Chutz Larba Amos Askinan. One of the branches of the tree extends beyond 4 amas, and Viniskav and supposed to be Ikaro, and his kavana was to spend Shabbos at the base of the tree. Umayla malo, umayla mata. What does it mean, above or below? Because what does it mean above the high? Iboy maisila derechalav means if he wants to get the eruv, he goes above, and if it's above 10 tfachim, it's reshus hayachid, and where he is a reshus harabim. So it's going to be a problem because the eruv won't be a good eruv because he wouldn't be able to have access to it. However, says the Gemara, Kisharabim Makatfim Allah, but this is not a regular branch that's 10 Tvachim high. It was a branch that people walking on the Rishus Harabim would sort of stop if they were carrying a load, and they would shift the load using the branch. Therefore, it was mishtamesh by the people in the Rishus Harabim. Therefore, he's in the Rishus Harabim, the Erev is in the Rishus Harabim. Kedula Damar Ula, Amud Tisha. If you have a post that's 9 Tfachim high, Rishus Harabim, V'Rabim Mekatfim Alav, and it's a post that people stop while they're carrying the Rishus Harabim, and they shift their load using that post, V'Zarak V'Nachal Gabo, and he threw something standing in Rishus Harabim and traveled 4 amas, and it landed there, Chayiv, because it's considered as part of the Rishus Harabim. So similarly, this branch is also going to be considered part of the Rishus Harabim because people stop and manipulate their load there. So we mentioned before that there's a machlokes between Rebbe and the Chachamim regarding, Rebbe seemed to hold that any gzeira, which is shvus midrabanan, which normally is prohibited, but ben hashmashos is not prohibited. So that's why certain activity, even though you cannot use a tree you can't climb a tree on Shabbos, that's gzeira midrabanan. But since you laid down the eruv, ben hashmashos, we're not goyzer that shvus according to Rebbe. So the Gemara wants to know, where is this machlokes Rebbe and Rabbanan? The Tanya. Nasno be'ilan. Let's say the eruv was placed in a tree, and it was placed lamala masor tfachim, and it was placed above 10 tfachim. Ein eruve eruv. The eruv is not a good eruv, because we said his kavana is to be shoyvis at the ikaro, at the base of the tree, which is a reshus harabim, and he's now placing it above 10 tfachim, which makes it reshus hayachid. That's why, and therefore he cannot have access to it. Therefore, the eruv is not good. If he places it lamata masar tfachim, anything within 10 tfachim on the ground is considered like in reshus harabim. He's already in the reshus harabim, so he and his eruv in the same place. So eruv eruv. However, asr litlo. However, he cannot take it because he cannot be mishtamish with the tree because of this gzeira of not being able to use a tree on Shabbos. However, in nosno b'soch shlosha, if he put it within 3 tfachim of the ground, then you can take it, because that's considered as if on the ground and not in the tree, right? Because of lavud. Anything within 3 tfachim is lavud, and therefore we don't have to use the tree. Now, what if the food wasn't put directly into the tree, but rather nosno bekalkala, was put in a basket, utzlo ube'ilan, and the basket was hung on the tree? Then afilu lamala me'asar tfachim eruva eruv. Then even if it was above 10 tfachim, it's a good eruv. We're talking about a case, Rashi says, where the ilan is not 4 tfachim wide, And we'll see that the basket is 4 tefachim. So divrei Rebbe, so Rebbe holds that in that case the eruv would be a good. However, if any place that you would not be able to take it from the tree because of this gzeira, then you can't, even if it wasn't this basket, it still wouldn't be able to be used because of this gzeira. But so you see, Rebbe L'chora is going to hold this way because he lifts the gzeira of using a tree because of anything that you did bein hashmoshes. Now, the Chachamim oimrim ayah. On what case are the Chachamim talking about? Ilema aseifa. Are we talking about the seifa we put it in the basket? Lema ksavi rabbanon studied asurim. Why should the Chachamim hold that it's asur? Because we see in other places in Shas, they don't hold that if you hang something on a tree that it was not necessarily be asur. Ela reisha. It's talking about where you put the food directly in the tree, not in a basket. So then the Gemara analyzes, Hi ilan hechadami. Where is the ilan? If the tree is not 4 by 4 tefachim, then it's a makom p'turhu. Then there should be no problem using the eruv, because it's you're permitted to use it. It's not a reshus hayachid. It's not, and therefore you haven't transferred something from reshus haram, reshus hayachid. If it is 4 by 4, then how does it help kinostu b'kalkala mayavi? A tree of 4 by 4 is already reshus hayachid, and therefore how does the basket help? When you place the food directly in the tree, we're talking about a tree that was 4 by 4, which makes it a reshus hayachid. Then we have that machlokas whether it's a problem or not. Sefer de lespe arba. In the sefer where we brought in the basket because the tree was not arba ba'arba, but the kalkala mashlim masal arba. By hanging the basket makes it a reshus hayachid by being 4 by 4. Why? Because Rabbi Savar like Rab Meir, V'Savar like Rab Yehuda. He holds like Rab Meir in one halacha and Rab Yehuda in another. Savar like Rab Meir domer choykekin lahashlim. That means you can draw an imaginary line from the basket, and even though the tree itself is not 4 by 4, but if the basket's 4 by 4, we sort of use an imaginary vision that the tree is also 4 by 4. That's according to Rav Meir, and he holds of that. The Savar like Rab Yehuda, the Omar, be'inan erev al gabi makam arba v'leka. However, Rab Yehuda holds that whatever you put your eruv down has to be on a makam chashuv. And if the tree itself without that is not 4 by 4, then it's not a makam chashuv. So he has to hold like both of these shitas to fit his shita. Now, my Rab Yehuda, where did we see these statements of Rab Yehuda? The time. Rav Yehuda Omer, not skor b'reshus harabim. You have a reshus harabim, you have a beam, and you put the beam in the ground in reshus harabim. V'niach eruvo aleha. You put his eruv on this beam, and the beam is gavoa asar v'rachva arba. The beam is 4 by 4 tefachim and 4 by 4 amis and 10 tefachim high. 4 by 4 tefachim and 10 tefachim high, which makes it a classic reshus hayachid. So there's more and eruv, because Rabbi Yehuda holds that for an eruv to be kosher, it has to be put on a kosher v'makom, which is at least 4 by 4. V'imlav ein eruv. If it's not 4 by 4, the eruv is not good. Freit Gemara ade Rabba pum fakert hu ve'eruv v'makom echad. If the beam is not 4 by 4, then basically he's standing reshus harabim, and his eruv is reshus harabim, and or a makom p'tur, and the eruv should be okay to use. Elahachi kamer. This is what I have to understand. Gavoa asar, if the beam is 10 high, sorach she'berosh arba. In order to put the eruv properly on it, it'd have to be 4 by 4 tefachim as well, because it's got to be a makom chashuv. If it's not a makom chashuv, you can't put the eruv there. Ein gvo asara. If it's not 10 tefachim high, ain't tzarich sheyeh b'rosh harba, then you don't need to be 4 by 4 because it remains in Rosh Hashanah. However, this is not Keman Delok Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yehuda. The Tanya Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yehuda no atzkan of Rosh Hashanah. Person is in Rosh Hashanah, and there's a beam placed in Rosh Hashanah. The Niach Barosho Truskel, you're like James Naismith, the inventor of basketball. He put a basket on top of that post. And the basket is 4 by 4. The Zarak v'nachal gabav. And he's standing in Rosh Hashanah. He throws an apple into the basket. Chayiv. You transferred from Rosh Hashanah into the Rosh Hashanah. So the Gemara L'chora is not like Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yehuda. What says Afilu Ten Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yehuda Hasam Hadrin Mechitzasa. The basket that you put on top of the beam, we use a concept of good achis. We draw imaginary walls down from the walls of each basket, and it goes up to Shamayim, this Rosh Hashanah. But hacha lo hadrin mechitzasa. A basket that you hung in a tree, it doesn't create mechitzas like the same case that we just mentioned. And therefore it's not comparable to our case in the tree. Rav Yirmiyah Omar, shiny kalkala, basket, hoil v'yachal and toisa. Even if it was placed above 10 tfachim, you can tip it down and bring it lavia l'tochasara, and therefore you'll have access to the eruv. And therefore you don't have to explain the Mishnah, one was not 4 wide, one was 4 wide. It's the same case. So Yosef Rav Papa v'Karmel Shmeitzer. Rav Papa was learning this sugya. Esrei Rav Bar Shabbat Rav Papa, Ketzad Uose. You have a case where Shabbos, Friday is Yontif, followed by Shabbos. And you need an Erev for Yontif too. You can't carry beyond the Tchum on Yontif. So he wants to go Thursday night and put an Eruv down. And he wants to use the same Eruv to use for Shabbos. So Molicho Barishal Machshichalam. He goes with his Eruv Thursday night. And he lets night fall. Now in Yontif you're allowed to carry. So v'noitlo bolo, then he carries it with him. And then Basheni Machshav Lavochlo Uvalo. Friday night, he goes back to the same place. He allows Ben Hashmoshes to complete. Then he eats it because he can't carry it anymore, because he can't carry on Shabbos. Uvalo. And that way, he's established there for both days. Frei the Gemara Mai. How could that work? And the Gemara will ask tomorrow morning why that may not work.
You guys just want to just learn the next daf now for me? I can't do it in the morning.
Oh, let's do it now, no problem. So let's just, in Shabbos, Motzei Shabbos, we'll learn at 8:30.
Okay.
Yeah.
Motzei Shabbos at 8:30. Freit Gemara Mai. Why should that work? Nema, Kiven de Iboy Amtui Motzei Mantile. Why not use, since you listen, we said before that if the basket is above 10 tfachim, since he has the potential to tip it down within 10, so that's enough, the potential. So here as well, perhaps even the boyam, he has the ability to go out there, so perhaps he doesn't have to physically go there and do it. As long as he has the ability to do it, that might be enough. Technically, that would work, but we don't allow it because sometimes we'll have the case where Yontif will follow Shabbos, like Yontif will be on Sunday. And then you can't use this technique. You can't carry on Shabbos. You could do it on the first day of Yontif when it was Thursday night because you could take your Erev with you. Okay, Esvei. Niskave lishbos b'reshus harabim. Person wants to set his Shabbos domicile in Reshus harabim. V'iniach eruva b'koisel. And he puts the eruv on a wall in the Reshus harabim.
How are you able to put the Eruv in the Rishus Harabim? It doesn't belong to you.
No, we'll see in a minute.
Coastal.
Wall. Well, you're allowed to establish your domicile in a Reshus harabim. We've been saying that all along. You can establish it in Reshus Hayachid. You can establish it in Reshus harabim. The Reshus harabim belongs to you too. So if you put down an eruv there, that's where your Reshus. And we've been saying all along, you can establish your domicile, and then from that location you can go another 2,000 amos. But your eruv has to be within 4 amos of you, because the eruv, you have to have access to it. If you established your domicile,
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. You're in the Rishus Harabim.
yeah.
You said that you live right there. You must live right next to it.
Walter, it's fictional. When we set down, when we know our Rosh Hashiva is coming 4,000 amos to the east. So normally we only have 2,000 amos from our city, all east, west, north, and south.
Uh-huh.
But if we go in one direction, and Motzei and Erev Shabbos, Ben Hashmosh, we set down some food in a location 2,000 amos away. We now extend our ability to walk another 2,000 amos. That domicile that we set up can be anywhere. Could be in a Reshus harabim, could be in a Reshus hayachid, because it's
but you have to be able to eat there.
So you put in the Reshus harabim.
But you have to eat it on Shabbos. You can't leave it.
You leave it.
You not touch it.
You set it up there, and then you put it down there, and that's your eruv. And then so tomorrow you can come back there and walk 2,000 amos beyond there. As long as the food is still there. If somehow, as you say, if it's Reshus harabim and it gets kicked away, you're going to have a problem. But technically, you have the ability to set it up there, as long as the eruv wasn't put in a Reshus hayachid. That's what we've been saying, because I cannot take something from Reshus harabim from the Reshus hayachid. It's got to be who the eruv. So if I'm in the Reshus harabim, that's the cases of the trees that we've been talking about, etc. As long as the eruv is in my same Reshus, I can get access to it, then it's kosher. Of course, if I set it up in Reshus hayachid, I put it in Reshus hayachid, it's the same thing. But I can't. If my domicile is in Reshus hayachid and I put the eruv in Reshus harabim, I have no access to it. It's not a good eruv. Now, here we're talking about there's a wall in the Reshus harabim, and I put my eruv on the wall. Now it depends. Anything below 10 tefachim on that wall is considered part of the Reshus harabim. So if you have a wall that's 10 tefachim high and 4 by 4, if you put it on top of the wall, so that wall creates a Reshus hayachid, then the eruv would not be. I would not be able to use that eruv because I can't go from the Reshus harabim to the Reshus hayachid. But let's say I stick it on the wall with something sticky, and it's below 10 tefachim. I can have, then technically I'm in the Reshus harabim, my eruv is Reshus harabim, and I have access to it, and it's kosher. That's why it says eruv. However, lamala masar tefachim, if I put my food down on top of the wall, and the wall is 10 tefachim high, I've put the eruv by definition into a Reshus hayachid. Ein eruvo eruv. This eruv is not a good eruv because of this problem. Because he's Reshus harabim and the eruv is a Reshus hayachid. Niskavin lishbos peros hashovach obrosh hamigdol. Let's say in the tree is a tree house or a bird house, or there's a tower somewhere, and I want my domicile there, and I put my eruv there. So as long as the eruv, the food, is in the same location where I am, I'm above 10 tefachim and the food is above 10 tefachim. But if I'm on top of the wall above 10 tvachim, and my Eruv is lamata masar tvachim, ein Eruv Eruv. Then my Eruv is not good, because again, I and my Eruv are not in the same location. Freik the Gemara v'amai. But why? You told me before, or you had a havamina, that as long as I have the potential to go there, maybe it's as if I went there. Why not say Ochanami Nema? Hoyel v'yochel in tosov lavil sochasara. Maybe if I'm below 10 tvachim, but I can pull something down and bring it to my asara, I have the potential to do it. Why shouldn't it be allowed? So on Rav Yirmiyah, it is allowed. However, this was nailed in. It was kavua, and therefore I couldn't tip it. I couldn't bring it. But Enochanami, based on this answer of Rav Yirmiyah, if I could bring it, it would work. I could give you an answer where we're talking about it's not hammered in. But it's a tall, let's say it's a tall chest. Because if the imim tile purta, if I tip the chest down to get to within my area, it will extend more than arba amos. And then where I am and where my Eruv is also not in the same location. Because when I'm in the Rosh Hashanah, I only establish around me arba amos. I can't carry more than arba amos in Rosh Hashanah. If there was a rope that allowed me to pull this, let him use a rope. So the less like kafso masna. And a chanami, if he had a rope, he could use it. If he didn't have a rope, so using a rope and he'd have access to the Eruv through pulling it would not. Now the chura is, why isn't that carrying? Because if something's attached by a rope, there's no akir v'anocha. So I don't violate a doraisa. It's only rabbinic. Well, we said since Eruv is laid down ben hashmosres, and according to Rebbe, there's no shvus ben hashmosres. We're not goizer ben hashmosres any rabbinic. This would be allowed. Okay. Let's say I put my Eruv in a bore, even 100 amas deep. The Mishnah said it's a good Eruv. So the Gemara wants to know, high bore the koyach. Where's this bore and where's the Eruv? Has the bore been built in Rosh Hashanah? So pshita. So the Rosh Hashanah goes all the way up to Shamayim. Rosh Hashanah olad larakia. So I'm in the bore. The Eruv is in the bore. Of course, it'll work. Just like I can go above, I can go below. So that should not be a problem. Ella, we're talking about a bor b'shus harabim. And where did he want to establish his domicile? In Niskavin lishbos heich. Ilamala, if he was going to be in the Rishus Harabim. Now, once you dig a bore that's 4 by 4 and 100 deep, that's Rishus Hayachid. That's not going to work because hu b'makom echad ve'ru b'makom acheru. And ilamata, if he's establishing his domicile in the bore, so pshita hu ve'ru b'makom echad. So, what kind of chiddush is the Mishnah telling you? Well, the chiddush is the koi b'karmelis. You're in a meadow which has the din of a carmelis, which midaraisa I'm allowed to carry there. It says Chachamim tell me I can't. Niskavin lishbos lamala, and he's in the carmelis, and the eruv is in the bore. The Rebbe, the Omer called Davar Shum Mishum Shavus Lo Gazra Ben Hashmashos. The whole concept of carmelis is only mirabanan, and since I've got to lay down my eruv Ben Hashmashos, anything mishvus is not goizer. That's why it would work. Mishnah. Nasna barosha kana barosha kundis. You put the eruv on top of a post. Bisman shehu tolish v'noutz. Remember, you can't use a tree that's planted in the ground because there's a gzeira to be mishtamish be'ilan. But if this reed has been pulled out of the ground and now you plant it in the ground as a separate item, afilu gavoa me'amar ze eruv. It's still a good eruv because it's no isser here, and it's not arba by arba, so it's not a Rosh Hashanah. It's very thin. So he and his eruv are in the same place. We're talking about it's in Rosh Hashanah. Rami le Ravada Barmas le Rava. Talush v'no it's in, so it works if the reed has been pulled from the ground. Low talush v'no it's low. If it's still in the ground, mani rabonani. Well, that's the sheet of Rab Chachamim, who don't hold like Rebbe that say that anything bein hashmoshes, if it's shvus, you're allowed to do it. They hold that shvus is operative bein hashmoshes. So that's why you can't use a planted tree. The Amri called Avashim Mishram shvus gazra lo bein hashmoshes. I v'ha'amrit Reisha Rebbe, v'amrit Reisha Rebbe. But the previous Mishnah you told me was a sheet of Rebbe. So Reisha Rebbe was safe for Rabbanan? Or Merlei, Kvarami le Remi Barchamel Rav Chizda v'Shani le, yeah. Reisha Rebbe was safe for Rabbanan, yeah. The beginning part that we learned was Rebbe, and this part now we switched to Rabbanan. Now that's problematic. So Ravina Amar Kula Rebbe, the Seifa Gzeir Shema Yikton, even by a reed, the Chachamim hold, since the reed is very soft, it might break, and that's going to be an aveira. So there, even Rebbe will hold that it's a gzer shema yiktom. Ben Hashmoshes says Rashi l'shema yala v'yitlosh l'chayshinon. To go, he's not worried on a tree. Avaliktimos kanavade, but to break the kana, he's worried about because it's soft. It's not really a shvus; it's a malacha. You're chai mishum koitzer, so that's not rabbinic. That's midaraisa. So of course, Rebbe says Ben Hashmoshes, you'd be chai for that as well. Hahu pulmusa de asula nardo. A pulmus is an army that descended on Narda. So there was also the big crowd there. Amar Rav Nachman. Puku avidi kvushe kavshe ba'agma. Go out to the fields and squash. There were some plants out there that he wanted them to sort of sit on and make it available to the Talmidim tomorrow on Shabbos to sit. L'macha nezel v'nesev aloi. So Esver Rav Rav Nachman, V'amil Rav Ukva, Barav Rav Nachman. I understand. Tolush v'no it's in. You can use a reed if it's been pulled from the ground, but these are not been pulled. Lo tosh v'lo it's law. How can you use these? There's a gzeira. Amr lei hasam be'uzradin. The uzradin were very hard. They're not soft, so it's like a tree. And he held like Rebbe that there's no shvus by a tree. By soft, that's not a shvus anymore, we said, because that could break and you'd be chayiv from koitzer. Where do we see where do we see this notion that it's different whether it's soft or whether it's hard? The Tanya. Hakanin v'atadin v'ahagin min ilonin. These are trees, and therefore if you plant them in a vineyard, it's einon klai b'kerem. When you plant a tree in a vineyard, there's no klai kerem. No, they're softer like a vegetable. They will be considered a climb. So we have a kasha kanin from the two brises. Kasha dodi. Ela shmamino kan buzradin kan b'shen buzradin. Shmamino. If it's soft, it's considered like a vegetable. It would be klai kerem. If it's hard, it's considered like a tree, and it's not klai kerem. Freik the Gemara of Akida min Yereku? How could Akida have been a vegetable? Vatanya, ein markivin Pegam al gabikina levana. Bipneshu york be'ilan. You cannot mix pigam with a kida because you're mixing a vegetable with a tree. So you see, kida is an ilan, not a yerek. On Rav Papa, kida lechud v'kida levana lechud. That's kida levana. A white kida in a chanami is an ilan, but a regular kida is a vegetable, so it's no kasha. Mishnah. Nasno b'migdal. You put the eruv in a tower, and which had a key in it. V'ovad ha'mafteach, and you lost the key. Still, I raise the eruv. The eruv is still a good eruv. Rabbi Eliezer Oimer, Eino yodea shemaftech b'mkomo eino eruv. If you don't know where the key is, it's not an eruv because you have no access to it. Now, the Gemara asks the Amai, why should this eruv be a good eruv? You can't get access to it. You don't have the key. It's like he has no access to it. Rav Shmuel Damar Tarvayu, Hacha b'migdal shalaveni maskinon. This tower was built of bricks, and the bricks have not been cemented. So you can make a hole in a wall to get what's inside of there, without destroying something, and therefore it's not soiser, it's not binyan. Reb Meir the Omar, poiches lechatchila v'noitel, that in such a wall you can make a hole in it of even lechatchila b'Shabbos if it's made out of uncemented bricks to get things out of there. It's not bayis shemilu perus. You have a house full of fruit. Sosum v'nivchas. If the bricks have closed the walls in, but it's not, no, if there's a hole there, then I can go through the hole, but I can't make the hole. Reb Meir Omer poiches v'noite lechatchila. I can make the hole lechatchila. To break a hole into this room to take the fruit out. I Rav Nachman Bar Shmuel Bavir Delivni. I Bavir Delivni. Achanami Bavir Delivni. We're talking about where there's space between the bricks without cement. So I haven't done anything by making a hole, by removing some of the bricks so I can get access to the stuff inside of it. Freit the Gemara, this whole thing is V'amar of Zeir B'yom Tov V'amar of Alo B'Shabbos. There's no right about Shabbos. This whole price was talked about Yontiv. They didn't say on Shabbos you're allowed to open up the Migdal. Hachanami be Yontiv. So in Hachanami, we're talking about Yontiv, not Shabbos. You also have to make an Eruv on Yontiv. Rav Eliezer Omer in Ba'ir Ovad. If you lost the key in the city, then Eruva Eruv. Vim Basodeh Ovad and Eruva Eruv. Now, Yontif, Mali Ir Mali Sada, you can carry on Yontif. So what would make a difference if it's in the city or in the field? Must be that we're talking about Shabbos as well. So the Gemara says, Chisur Mechser V'Hachiktani. We have to amend this paraisa to have it make any sense. And Mirz Hashem will learn that Motzei Shabbos. Kenny Yashakoach for your
suggestion.
For your suggestion.
Everybody.